All right. We are on week 4 of Train Up Express, and we're excited about this. I want to kick it off kind of talking about family identity just for a moment.
Okay.
That it is so important, just like a great team has an identity, where the Arizona Cardinals, there's an identity about it. And it's important as a family, we're speaking that. The Andersons, we work hard. Andersons give their best. And this is what we speak over the family anytime we have opportunity. On Sunday, the kids were playing Smash Brothers. All the boys were playing Smash Brothers, and Lakin was taking a beat down from his brothers. And me and Oliver were kind of watching. And Lakin said something along the lines. He's like, "I'm out. I'm done." And Olive goes, "Andersons don't quit." She's 4 years old. It was so cute. That even at 4, from now my grandchild and Holly's grandchild down, already has what the identity of the Andersons are. That Andersons go to church, that Andersons give their best, that Andersons are happy in all circumstances. There is in a sense, a declaration of our family. And if you're not doing it, begin to do it. And you'll find that your kids will follow your words. So follow what you say. All right, today we're going to talk about virtue number 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Can I add something to that?
Please do.
So, when obviously our family identity was in partnership with the word. So you made a comment about being happy on all occasions and joyful in all things. And that's in partnership with the word. Like our family identity, there's nothing about our family identity that is not also or cannot also be found in God's word. And so again, we always say this, that our parenting, it's to remind our kids of what, or just our parenting backs up what the word of God says and what the word says we can have and who God is to our lives. And so that also goes for the family identity. And so, when you're looking to, what does your family ascribe to? What do you want your family's identity to be wrapped up in? Well, what are the character traits in the word? What are, what does the fruit of the Spirit, what's the fruit of the Spirit transforming us from the inside out? And so those kinds of things also contribute to our family identity.
I love that. Andersons are not stressed. Everything in the word is what we try to declare. You don't use it opposite and go, well, Anderson shoplift. You don't want to do something like that.
Well, you know what I think it is I think
Anderson sell drugs.
Wow. Okay. I think
somebody's going to just clip that little part out. It's going to hurt me one day when I run for governor.
Yeah, let's go ahead and cut that part out. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that, your identity sometimes, it can develop into pride. You want to make sure that your kids aren't like, oh, well, we, our family. Right. And, and it's easy to do that. We're flesh, we're, human. And so when your family identity is wrapped up in character qualities that are found in the word and character qualities that are Jesus qualities, then you safeguard yourself from those kinds of feelings of pride and better than, or so anyway.
All right, virtue number 7, once again, very important, positive attitude. You will not find a highly successful person that doesn't have a positive attitude. You will not find a great marriage that doesn't have 2 people with a positive attitude. It is one of the foundational things of what Paul's I discovered how to be happy in all circumstances. When things are going great, when things are not going great. And we train that into our children. It's got to be that important to us. One of the most important things we can do is be training our kids positive attitude. That's why we're be on top of those fits and tantrums. Because what is a fit or tantrum? It says that my circumstances aren't what I want. So now I'm going to throw an emotional thing out there. I'm not going to control my emotions. And that transfers to when they become an adult and things don't go our way. A lot of times, I think you all can admit, there's a lot of times at work and home, things completely every day don't go the way that you want.
That's right.
But can you rejoice in the Lord always? Again, I say rejoice. Can you have a positive attitude no matter what's going on? Even when things go really, really bad, a positive attitude helps you have a clarity of mind to be able to navigate through some of the worst things that life may throw at you so that you can get to the other side.
Well, and I think, the word says that's the joy of the Lord, that, the Lord's joy in us and what he sees in us that is to be our strength. And I think that that's so amazing that when you teach your kids that they have that too, that they can call on God, they can rely on his strength in them. And I think what it does is, again, it's not pointing them to self. It's not pointing them to, what their capabilities are. But then again, what their capabilities are because of who is in charge, and that is God. Again, it's just backed up by the Word of God.
Here's the things that we do in our home to raise positive kids. Number one is the atmosphere. Doesn't matter how good the seed is, the soil is, if the atmosphere is not right, it won't produce. We have to, and it's your responsibility to have a home that has a positive attitude, right? It is just, we are as a family, we're positive. Things don't go our way, we're still positive. We still believe the best. We still hope. We still have high expectation in whatever we're doing. And so we get happy. And parents, you got to be happy. If you're not excited to see your kids when they're young, they will not be excited to see you when they become teenagers. So you walk in a room in the morning, and it's like, good morning, kids. How's the best kids in the world doing this morning? Right? You come home from work, you're like, hey, kids, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. You put a little inflection in your voice. You do it for Bob at the office, and you can't stand Bob. Why wouldn't you do it for your own family every single time? Like that. You come home, you see a kid, and we don't allow a kid. I know that things are going to happen, and there's going to be times when, they have a little bit of negative emotion. We're not saying they don't have negative emotion. We're saying we're trying to help them get through some things that they have the right to have some negative emotion. There's a breakup, something bad happened at school. But we help them navigate to a positive attitude even in the midst of a mess. And so negative is not, you can have one negative kid in the house and it ruins the whole house.
Right.
One negative. And so we don't allow any of that. Number two, unhappy is not an option. This is not an option in the Anderson home. Control your emotions. That's why we say fits and tantrums. Go to your room. You can have the emotion, but you're going to go to your room. And once you're done, you can come out. And you're teaching your kid to have the power to control their emotion. If things are going to go bad at work one day, are they going to be the ones that throw a little fit and tantrum, go talk about the boss, upset, and walk out? Or are going to be the ones that can have a controlled emotion, be able to navigate the negative in a positive way? You are setting them up for great success. At 3 and 4 years old, you're setting them up for success when they're that young. And so it's very important that, and when the kids don't like to do the dishes, what do we say? Have your heart.
Well, let me say this, because I don't want to paint a picture where you're not allowed to have something zing you, because we all have that happen. Things happen that are not fun and not happy, and that don't elicit immediately an attitude of oh, I love this adversity. Adversity is so fun. It's not. But I think what we're trying to say is that in showing our kids and in pointing them to the fact that it's but for a moment, that they're able to get on the other side of it, that greater problem solving happens in the midst of being able to control their emotions. Greater, our emotions, negative and positive, they communicate something to us. It communicates when maybe a boundary needs to be set. It communicates when, something that I don't like, but now I have to, now I'm going to have to realize or create a plan on how can I do this? I mean, let's use, a subject in school. Your kids might be like, oh my goodness, every time math comes around, I feel anxious. And so, it's not that they're not going to have the anxious feeling, but it communicates something to them. It's going to communicate to them that, math may be difficult, or maybe math is something that they fear. And what I think they need to learn in that moment is, what can they do to eradicate that eradicate that anxiety? Obviously, it's communicating something to them about that subject or about that something. And I think it's in the calming themselves, it's in the being able to control their emotions in that moment, that they're able to put themselves in a position of, what can they do to problem solve in this moment? Math is something they're going to have to do. That person that they come into contact with that maybe isn't their best pal, they're going to have to come into contact with them. How do they navigate that? Because we can't live in denial of our, negative emotions, but then we also can't, we have to figure out how to live around what's causing those negative emotions. We have to figure out what to do with those negative emotions. And we are not going to come up with a great solution if we just they sit and kick their feet and cry and, be mad. It's not a solution. It's not a problem-solving moment. So
you'll have negative emotions, but we
Correct.
want to teach them how to get out of the negative emotions as quick as they can, to get back on so that they can solve the problems that are, as you were saying, count it all joy when you have problems. It builds up your faith and it gets you to the place that you lack nothing.
Well, and what does that mean? It means it grows you. It grows you to be able to handle more and more. And I think we see the breakdown of that right now with critical thinking in our America. Mm-hmm. It's like we want critical thinkers. We want kids that can stop and press pause on that junky emotion and go, okay, what is it telling me about my situation right now? It's not that they don't have them. It's just that they need to be able to control it enough so where they can gather themselves and not be emotional messes and, just sitting around doing nothing and being completely ineffective.
And most of the time, remind yourself of this, most of the time when they go into a negative emotion, there's no reason for it. So we're not talking about the things where there is a reason. We're saying, hey, can you do the dishes? And they're stomping around the kitchen. Well, you're going to have a job one day and the boss is going to ask you to do something. And you don't have a right to have a negative emotion. You need to control your emotion. That's why we always go, happy heart. And then they do a forced smile. They go like this with a big forced smile on their face.
Very true.
And then 30 seconds later, they're laughing and having a good time in it. And what are we training them? Happy heart, happy heart. And then your kids will say it to you once in a while when you're doing something. They're like, happy heart, Dad. I'm like, shut up.
But it is.
But we do demonstrate it.
Yeah.
We have to demonstrate happy heart. I grew up in a home that we were broke. We had nothing. My dad worked for minimum wage. He worked, 70, 80, 90, sometimes 100 plus hours a week to do it. And then he gets laid off. And how does he come home? He doesn't come home down and depressed. He says, hey, got laid off. God's going to take care of us. Let's go out to eat. And this is the home that I grew up in, where I'd hear my parents talking about they don't have money for rent, but they're always like, God is able. They were always demonstrating, even in the worst of times, their faith and expectation of what God would do.
One of the greatest things I want to brag on you right now, because one of the biggest things for me is like men in cars and men when cars break down and that frustration and just wanting to kick the car or scream at the car or be frustrated at the car. And you are so calm with that. Like it doesn't bother you a bit. And I mean, the car could literally be like, not moving. And you're like, it's a car. What do you do? And I'm blown away by that. It's a very calm and collected attitude. And he just looks at it like you look at it very logical. And it's crazy how I've watched you problem solve in that moment and go from thing to thing to thing on the car. But again, your emotions could get out of whack very fast.
When we had our one son crash his car and I got on the phone and I was like, everything in me, I was like, okay, all right. And then while I'm driving, the whole time I was driving to him, I'm like, okay, be a good dad. Use your words right. I know you're very upset because he just changed lanes without looking, but he's red. So I had to get there and I had to navigate that in a positive way. Right. But I had 40 minutes to figure it out.
Yeah, but even the phone call though, you're like, that stinks, man. Okay, are you okay?
Yes.
And it's awesome. It's a great skill. But you said it earlier. We exhibit it. We show it. We model it.
And if you don't get working on it,
definitely do that.
We have to work on it. You all have to count it all joy. You demonstrate it. And so they're watching you and how you demonstrate with problems. Number 3, see the good. Like I said just a moment ago, we had nothing. And I was thinking about for Christmas, my parents made everything we didn't have, like they made it sound so amazing and good. They're always pointing us to good. Hey, we get to take a vacation to Arizona. That meant 7 days in a 1972 Buick for 12 hours a day of driving. That was our vacation. And somehow they made it great. For Christmas, I got a trash can one year. Green Bay Packer one's like a great Christmas. Another year, I got sheets for my bed. And I was thinking about that. Another year, I got shelves for the room. I'm like, they were decorating my room with my Christmas present. But we saw the good in everything. And that's what Paul explains in the Bible. Finding the ability to find good in whatever is going on in your life. Number 4, make your own happiness. That's why we're really big on from 0. They start with playpen time. Then they go to room time, right? Then they have a desk and they have one thing. We're very big in today's world of having no device time. Devices today, I've turned on my iPad. The kid has an iPad. He's on there for hours. I rely on him to make me happy. He brings me happiness. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And you're shortening your kids' attention spans. You'll find that most of the videos on here are 15, 20 seconds. Boom, Boom, 15 seconds, something new. And then you get that kid in the class and he's like, after 15 seconds, like, I can't focus on that. He hasn't been taught to focus. No iPad, no games for a period of the day where they just do a puzzle and they do something that they can focus on. And they learn to make happiness without television, without electronics, without stuff around them, that they're learning to be happy with next to nothing. Mm-hmm. All right. Number 5, not only positive words. We're really big on this. Do not ever limit your children. Don't ever say, well, he's not in good math. She's not very good at English. He's not athletic. You don't know what they are. You don't know what's in there. Don't ever speak any limits over your children, ever. Well, she's shy. Don't say that. She'll identify to that. It'll attach to her, and now she'll have something that she has to overcome. Even if she is shy, you begin to speak what you want and not what you got. You begin to say, oh, she's so bold. Or I see parents go, little Johnny's a handful. Well, Johnny then identifies with that, so now he's going to be a handful. But in front of people, you say, Johnny is so well behaved. I can ask Johnny to do something. He does it with such a happy heart. You'll find that Johnny will follow your words. Don't use your words to limit a child ever. All right, virtue number 8. Did you have more you want to add to that?
No, I'm good.
All right, virtue number 8 is gratitude. You cannot be happy unless you're full of thankfulness. Thankfulness is one of the key things of being happy in this life. You want kids with a positive attitude. You want kids to enjoy, to be happy. Everything we're talking about tonight is about getting your kids to live a happy life. They have to be grateful. The Bible says, rejoice in the Lord always. But again, I say rejoice. And then it goes on to say, when you come to God for all things, come with thanksgiving in your heart. That thanksgiving, and then it says, the peace of God will surpass your understanding. You don't understand why things are going on. But in the midst of being thankful, David would always navigate himself back to joy no matter how bad his life was by simply reminding himself of how great God was and the things that God has done and enter into a thanksgiving in his heart. It's a secret to being happy. And kids that are unhappy are kids that don't realize and don't look around at the things that their parents do. You have a teenager and you're like, really, you're unhappy? Like one of the things I would say, I'm like, really? Because your life is so hard? What did you do today? Like I went to work, so you have a roof over your head, you got food in your belly, you got Nikes on your feet, you got a phone in your pocket, and your life is hard because I said you can't stay out past 7? No, that doesn't fly. You have a great life, and you need to be thankful for the father and a mother that you have in your life. And pointing your kids to how good of parents they have is important. That you're teaching your children to be thankful, not for what they don't have, but what they do have. Because life, you're always going to have things you don't have. They're always going to have things they don't have. And they can focus on what they don't have, or you can raise up kids who are focused for what they do have.
I think that gratitude is the greatest way to eradicate doubt and unbelief. Because when you can recall ways that God has come through in your life, it helps you and it assists you when you're standing in faith and believing for the big thing that's in front of you right now. When you can walk thankful for what you know God has already done in your life, what you know, how he's already come through for your life, what happens is now when that mountain is giant and imposing in front of you, you can recall those moments. You can recall those times that God came through, and it literally, that gratitude and that thankfulness will propel you to stand and believe and for greater faith over the mountain that maybe you're facing in that moment. So never, ever underestimate the power of gratitude in your life for just the continued faith, continued stand, and then just joy in your day. I mean, when we wake up and we just thank God for the ways that he has blessed our lives to this point, watch and see that your day, that day that you're stepping into, watch and see that it is not significantly happier, significantly smoother when you are reminding yourselves of the ways that God has already come through and the ways that he's already blessed your life. And then sharing that with your kids, reminding your kids, remember that time when such and such, and how amazing that, you know, God came through, and just pointing your kids to that gratitude and that thankfulness. And I promise you, it'll then start to just impact even their gratitude and their thankfulness for one another, their siblings, for you, the parents. Remind them of ways that they have to be so thankful and grateful for their teachers, especially the ones that are frustrating. Remind them about, but remember when they helped you, remember when they worked with you. But you know what? She shows up every day. that teacher that you're like so annoyed with, she shows up every day and, she probably knows you don't like her and she still shows up to teach you. Just those little moments where you have the opportunity to remind your kids of the things that are in their lives that they do have to be grateful for and thankful for. Watch and see that it does not make life smoother.
Thankfulness. I think it's impossible to be unhappy if you're thankful. Mm-hmm. And we demonstrate it. 2008, when we lost everything, and Holly's on the phone with me, and I was in the dumpster, and my emotions were not where they needed to be, whatever. And she goes, "There goes our family. What else do you need in this life?" And it made me switch my thinking to go, "Well, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for my family, for my kids and everything. When I got my family, I got everything that I need. I can get money back, but I can't replace my family." And it switched my emotions in the midst of a very negative time in my life. And the same thing for our kids, being thankful. All right, so 1, be thankful for even when you don't get what you want. Find a way to be thankful for it. Number 2, thankful for everything. Teaching your kids to have a heart of thankfulness. Our kids, I'm telling you, anywhere we went, and once you train one, then all the ones catch up. Take them out to dinner. Thank you, Mom and Dad, from the back, right? We take them anywhere, go on a drive, doesn't matter what we do, play a game. They're like, "Thanks, Mom and Dad." Watch a show with them. "Thank you, Mom and Dad." It's thankful. They're very thankful. They use their words all the time. I hold the door. Thank you for holding the door. And so getting your kids in a habit from the time they can talk, and actually before that, we teach our kids how to say please and thank you in sign language. So even before they can even talk, they're already saying please and thank you. When you give them food, we're working on that right away with them because it's such a key. And Savvy's friend yesterday.
Just going to say,
you want to say it? You tell them. Tell them. I think it's good. No, I like it.
So we were up north. It's fall break, so we were up north with Savannah, and she brought a friend with her, and we were going through somewhere, and we said thank you to it was Starbucks, and so we're getting coffee, and Savvy said thank you so much, and the friend said, "You know what we do in my house?" She's like, "We actually race to be the first to say thank you in her home," and she said her and her sibling, and she said the reason why is in her house the last person to say thank you has to do the dishes.
That is really cool.
The first person to say thank you gets out of doing dishes. And so I was like,
if you're trying to teach them all that, that's a great way.
It is.
I mean, they're racing now is a game to say thank you. Once again, it becomes a habit. And they become a habit of an adult who say thank you when their spouse is doing something. They're saying thank you at a life that is full of thank yous is a great life to me. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Number 3, prayer. Teaching kids to be thankful in their prayer. Prayer is not meant to just be a list of problems that you have for God. David, when he prayed, he always navigated himself to being thankful to God. And I think that's an important part because Philippians 4 talks about that. When you come to God, come with some thanksgiving in your heart. Number 4, cards for holidays, making sure that as soon as your kids can write, you're reminding them. If you are married, I will say, "Hey, Mom's birthday's coming up. I want a card, and I want you to write it out really good." And when they were too young to go get it on their own, I would take them to the store, let them pick out their cards. Then they would write in the card something special. Now that they're pretty much adults, they do it on their own. Yeah. Like I got a card. One of the kids wrote me like a page. It's like homework. I had to read a couple chapters. It was so good, but it meant the world to me.
Right.
To sit there and just to read the words of thankfulness in the card. Yeah. And if you're not married, then you can remind them. And then you also make sure that they do it for your ex. Making sure that's your responsibility still is to teach your kids to be thankful to the ex for their birthdays and Christmas and all those things. All right. Number 5, point out the blessings. Me and Holly are very good, always pointing out the good. Look what your mom did. Look what your dad did. Look what I did. Like, hey, Dad took time and I did this and that. If they're not thankful, I like to point them to the reason to be thankful.
Well, can I add to that real fast?
Please do.
And you know what? Employ your kids in that. Like, and I know it's easy for us to get in the habit of telling them why we think they should be thankful and what is, worth being grateful for. But there is something really telling when you ask your kids, how was your day? And give me one thing that you have to be thankful for about your day or grateful to in your day. And what's awesome about that is then you're going to get feedback from their little personalities about, what meant something to them in that day and pointing them to pay attention to those different aspects, because it can get really easy for us to tell our kids what they have to be grateful for, but they have personalities and they have their individual personality and their individual bent. And there's nothing more satisfying than having your kids verbalize to you why they are grateful or what in their life is thankworthy, right? So don't just spoon feed them what you think is worth being thankful and grateful for. Ask them, like, I want you to tell me one thing today that you would thank God for in your day. Give me one thing that you would say of all the things today you have to be grateful for. And then applaud that they took notice of something specific. And I would actually, if you find that they keep regurgitating the same thing, and ask them to be creative. Well, give me something else that you would just say was so amazing about today. What made today so amazing? Maybe it made you feel great. Maybe it's something that you did that made someone else feel great. And just encourage them to also use their voice in sharing with you. I think it's very, very powerful to find out where we're being effective in our parenting.
That's good. Virtue number 9 is hard work. The home is the training ground for hard work. So what you allow them, if you get them to kind of be lazy and not do, school is a big part of that. Andersons get A's. This is what we get. And so we work hard on our homework, and we work hard. And it's training them for one day when they have a job or they have responsibilities. So what you allow them to get away with is going to be what they think the world's going to let them get away with. But hard work is rewarded, and hard work feels good, and hard work makes you feel great about yourself. And so making sure that our kids are working hard at whatever. And when I say A's, you may have a kid. We had a kid that school was harder for them. But we knew that they were up till 2:00 in the morning studying, and they got B's. And if I know you're studying and working hard, I'll take a B. But then you have kids that you're like, no, stop it. No, we work hard. And so hard work is very important. And number 10, and we'll close with number 10. Virtue number 10 is humility. And the Bible's very specific of making sure pride is not a good thing. And raising up kids that are humble. I'm not better than everybody else. I can be as good as somebody else. I may have to work at it. But coming into things with the ability to self-evaluate, I think, is a big part. Somebody that's full of pride thinks they made it, and I got it all figured out. I'm the best. And that's not a good place to be. We want to raise up kids that can look at themselves in any circumstance and go, what can I do differently? How could I have handled that? That's important in a marriage. And every fight and argument, there's always something that you could have done differently. I could have said things. I could have responded differently. I could have done this. And being people that are always working on themselves. You should never get to the place where you're like, I'm done. All right, I'm 80 years old. I figured it out. No. I think a great life is a life where every day I should be a little bit better than I was yesterday. And to raise up kids, so teaching your kids to take responsibility, right, when they're wrong, or even arguments with their siblings, and they have an argument, and no, I was right. No, they're all wrong. Well, maybe they take 90%, but what 10% could you have done differently? And raising up kids that are able to not walk around with pride, but instead walk around humble.